Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Our handle, please hit the like button and, of course, subscribe. It is time now to talk Jets football. Hey, you see the green, Boy Green. Very good. I'm glad you moved. I wasn't sure if you're going to switch the template. You did. Very fast, very quick. We bring in our guy who talks Jets with us every week. This week, he joins us live. The one, the only Jake Asman from the Jake Asman Show and ESPN New York, where he was doing a little filling in for Michael Kay this week, I saw. How you doing, Jake?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. And I was in for Kay yesterday. He was getting hammered at the St. Patrick's Day parade, apparently. I made that up, but we could go with it. Why not?
You'll never think of Michael Kay the same after I told you that story.
At some point, I need to talk to him about that next time I see him in person, because that is just an unbelievable tale.
All these years later. I mean,
I hope so.
Remember that. I don't
Jake,
know.
I'm looking forward to you having that conversation and then you joining us to say, hey, here's what happened.
Jake,
right.
Please, the names need to be protected. Don't put the names in there to keep the innocent protected. I was a nobody back then. I mean, I wasn't even doing media back then. So,
but yeah, get the deets, Jake. That's what we need. We need the deets. We need the other side of the story. Was Michael Kay shivering in his boots? That's what we need to know.
Shivering in his boots, but that was an awkward moment to say the least. I wonder if he does remember it. I remember it.
We will find out.
Well, that's for sure. Jake, let's dive in on some New York Jets activity. Darren Mougey has been absolutely busy. He tied Howie Roseman. Shout out to Rich Samiti for the stat. He has tied Howie Roseman for the most player trade since. Obviously, Howie Roseman's had the job a lot longer than Mougey. So it's since Mougey has taken over in that span of time, they're now tied. Now, we will see what happens here, Jake, because, Howie's got A.J. Brown in his back pocket, so he has perhaps at least another deal to make. Speaking of wide receivers, maybe the Jets can strike their own trade, and Mougey could get a quick edge, perhaps, on Roseman in this race for all the moves. What job do you make of Darren Mougey? We're a little over a year on the job here for the old Moogster. What do you make of what he's been able to do?
I think he's done a nice job given the limitations he's clearly dealing with because of the situation the Jets are in, coming off a 3-win season, having, no clear path to like a long-term answer at quarterback necessarily. And it's not the most attractive place to play. You got a lame duck coaching staff potentially that needs to win. Otherwise jobs could be lost. So I think he's done really well along the margins. I think he's made some smart, calculated moves. He's helped raise the floor of what the Jets are. I still don't know really what their ceiling is necessarily, but I think he's done a nice job. I think it's important to acknowledge that and also not make the mistake many Jet fans made with Joe Douglas. Oh, Douglas could do no wrong. JD, he's the best. Well, at the end of the day, Douglas whiffed badly on quarterback, and when he got a chance to hire his coach, it didn't work with Robert Saleh either. So we'll see what the long-term, projection is for Darren Mougey. But if he's here a year from now and Glenn's not, I wouldn't be totally surprised. But the judging of Darren Mougey, I think we could be encouraged, but we still have to say it's a big incomplete because he hasn't invested in quarterback yet. He hasn't gone out there and used these 8 premium assets, if you count second-round picks with the first-round picks that they have over the next 2 drafts.
Jake, there's always interesting scuttlebutt in the New York media. After all, there are so many people in the New York media chiming in on all different things and all different teams. And so I did see that those comments made on his podcast by Mike Francesa about the pecking order, dare I say, for the Jets. And that, Francesa has a source, take him at his word, that says basically that Mougey is in charge. It's not Aaron Glenn that's in charge, and that Mougey is the one giving the marching orders. So give me your take on that whole thing. I know you replayed the clip on your show. I caught that as well. Give me your thoughts about what is actually going on at One Jets Drive.
Yeah, we have an old-fashioned source-off going on between Francesa's source and then Connor Hughes of SNY reporting that everything Mike said is not true. So, I mean, look, I do think just connecting the dots, Darren Mougey's in better standing with the organization than Glenn. Glenn is coming off a 3-win season. He fired 9 of 21 assistants, including both coordinators. I think if you listen back to the end of season presser, it felt like there was a shift in the dynamic. I remember several beat reporters who were there noted that as well. And I remember noting it on my show, watching it live. Then you fast forward to the combine, and Glenn specifically mentioned Mougey being a part of the process to help hire some of these coaches, which I thought was notable because a year ago, Glenn basically said he did it all himself. These were his hires. So I don't know if Mike's source is accurate that they're not all buddy behind the scenes. I have no idea. I think some of the things Mike was saying I had heard different, like Lance Newmark, the Jets thought Glenn wanted to work with Newmark, I had heard. And when Glenn said, well, I actually would prefer to work with Darren Mougey, then they pivoted. Mike made it sound like Glenn recommended Newmark and they didn't think he was experienced enough, so they went with Mougey. But Mougey has, you could argue, even less experience than Newmark does. So not everything Francesa said, I think, jived with what had been out there previously. But I don't think Mike just made this up. I think someone clearly told him this. I just wonder what's actually true, what's not. But I think at the end of the day, if you just look at the Jets' history, you look at what the perception is of both guys, one guy I think is clearly on the hot seat, whereas the other, I think if Mougey has a good draft, there's a chance that they don't win enough games. He's here and Glenn's not, and Mougey's part of the coaching search a year from now.
Jake, when we're live, anything can happen. Johnny Boy sent in a super chat saying, can Jake say, quote, I love AG and his coaching style, end quote?
I mean, I could say it, but I'd be lying. You know, I don't want to lie to the Manchild with Boy Green digital audience. Come on.
Right. That's true. So, Johnny Boy, thank you very much for the attempt, but not so much.
Nice try, Johnny. Nice try.
Yeah, you know, which I can respect. Well, how about this? I'll adjust Johnny Boy's very declarative request, like this is a cameo appearance, for God's sakes, for Jake Asman, and turn it into this. Aaron Glenn calling the defense this year versus the other options that were on the table. How do you feel about it?
The question is Aaron Glenn versus the other options on the table?
Basically, yeah. So Aaron Glenn is now going to call the defense for the Jets this year. And then obviously that's different. That did not happen last year. Versus the options, they interviewed a gajillion guys for that position. And now we sort of see what's the vision, I assume. AG, there's been a lot of word that he would have final say on roster decisions. And with him calling plays and seeing what he did on defense, Demario Davis, David Onyemata, Joseph Asai, go through all the list of guys, plus obviously the draft to come. How do you feel about AG calling the defense versus anyone else that could have been hired, and sort of the vision that you see? It's free agency. There's still more moves to be made, but sort of how you feel about it from that perspective.
Well, if it was up to me, and I could get any one of the people they spoke to, Jim Leonard would have been my choice, but I don't think Jim Leonard's picking the Jets over the Bills, as it turned out to be the case, right? So that wasn't going to happen. I do think I'd rather have Glenn be the play caller than Wink Martindale. Like, I have no issue with Glenn being the play caller. I think it's the best chance for him to prove he could be a head coach, if he could save his job, if he could get the Jet defense to actually be a reason why they're winning some games this year. And they don't win a ton of games because, look, the offense has limitations with 36-year-old Geno Smith as the bridge quarterback. That's more understandable, but the defense needs to be fixed. They've invested a lot in that unit. They're in all likelihood going to invest the number 2 pick into a premium defensive player. So the defense has to be a lot better. And Glenn saying what he said at the combine just put the target on him even more. Play calling is my superpower. Well, if that's the case, how come at no point did you step in and take over when the defense was losing you game after game every week and you started 0-7? So now it's on him. And I think the roster, while not perfect, I think it's in a place where it's good enough to properly evaluate once and for all who Aaron Glenn is as a head coach. And if he can't win, he's not going to be here, nor should he be.
Well, Jake, we go down this draft road every year, and plenty of teams are out there putting up smoke screens, as they say, trying to distract, trying to get teams to think they're going one way so that they can go the other way, because it gets tricky if you want a particular player or you're really hoping for someone. So there's been a lot of scuttlebutt in the last week about teams clamoring for Jeremiah Love, and that perhaps the Titans might want to take him at 4. So if you want to get in front of the Titans, you better get to 3 or 2, which is obviously one of the spots where the Jets are sticking. What is your thought? Do you think there's any there to this rumor about Love really jumping really towards the very top of the draft here?
Yeah, I think it'd be a bit of a surprise if he went that high, just based on position value, right? To me, if the Jets could find anyone who wants to actually come up for Jeremiah Love, I'm all for it, because get as much assets as possible. But I don't know. I'd be a little surprised if he goes that high, which some of the reports have said it's now in the cards here. Again, anything can happen. It's a weird draft. You don't have a ton of quarterbacks who are going to go early. Doesn't feel like the receivers are as good as some of the other stud receivers we've had in previous classes, so guys get inflated at non-premium positions, but I'd be a little surprised.
Jake, I read this nugget from Rich Cimini. I believe it was in a column that was posted this morning, that the low-cost trade for Geno Smith reinforces the belief that the Jets will wait for the 2027 NFL draft to find their long-term solution at quarterback, sans them being blown away by Ty Simpson somewhere in the next 5 weeks. That is his belief. Is that the right belief to have based on the Geno Smith acquisition?
Yeah, look, I think so. I think even if they didn't bring in Geno and they brought in a different bridge, I don't think they're taking a quarterback in the first round. I think if they were to take one, it would only be Ty Simpson. I just find it hard to believe they would take him at pick 16 when he's made 15 career starts. I would have no issue if they drafted Ty in round 2 with pick 33, but even that, I'm not totally confident in. I know people just say, "Oh, he won't be there." I don't know about that. I think there is a chance he is. I mean, tell me which team is taking Ty Simpson. Like, I don't think it's going to be Arizona at 3. I don't think it's Miami at 11. I don't think it's the Steelers at 21. I don't think it's going to be the Rams. Like, you really struggle to find a team unless someone trades back in to round 1. So I think the tie debate will end up being, do the Jets pull the trigger at 33 when it's all said and done?
Jake, I'm a big fan and have been for years of Mel Kiper's. What he has done, he created the draft in a lot of ways. He created the spectacle that is the draft. I mean, if we as broadcasters can't respect that, you can't respect anything about the NFL draft. So I always love him. He's not always the most accurate, and that's fine. And he has his ideas. So he just put out a mock. I'm sure you're aware of it. He had the Jets picking Ty Simpson at number 17, which obviously
16.
got a buzz. 16, thank you. Got a buzz out of the New York media and anybody that covers the Jets. So let's talk about Simpson for a minute, because he is an interesting name in this draft. And Kiper is a respected guy. Give me your thoughts. I mean, is Kiper, when it comes to draft, I know you respect Kiper. Is Kiper your guy, or do you have a go-to guy even when it comes to accuracy in the draft? I'm just curious whether you have somebody or not.
Yeah, so I respect the hell out of Mel. I think what he's done, I mean, you said it best. He's created what the draft has become as far as fan interest and mock drafts. And, the draft has become a year-round spectacle that people are locked in on now, especially if you're Jet fans. You're all too familiar with that. For me, I personally love Daniel Jeremiah, and I love Connor Rogers. Connor's a Jet fan, does a Jet podcast, and I just think he's excellent the way he breaks things down. I think Jeremiah is great as well. I like a lot of guys. I listen to McShay a ton. I value Matt Miller from ESPN, Dane Brugler from The Athletic. I've had all these guys on my show in the past, and I think they all do such a great job. So I'm sure I'm missing some too, but I really value the opinions of all these guys because I just know how much work goes into it. Trevor Sikkema from PFF is another guy I really respect. It's hard to study this many players and be able to formulate accurate opinions and the scouting breakdowns. I'd throw my guy Dom C from JetX into that conversation as well. I think he does a great job. So there's a lot, man. But Kiper, I mean, he's the GOAT because he was like the first to really become the quintessential draft analyst in the mainstream media.
Hey, we still got time. So let me just a quick follow up. Sorry, Blue Green.
Please.
On Ty Simpson, what is the earliest you think he could go? Realistically, what do you think the earliest is he could go at this point?
I guess it's technically 3 to the Cardinals, but I'd be really surprised. 11 to the Miami Dolphins, I suppose, would be the earliest if I had to say, like, be realistic. Even that feels early. Again, I think we're talking about maybe Pittsburgh at pick 21, the earliest I see Ty Simpson coming off the board.
I could see that as well. Again, we're speaking with Jake Asman here, the leader of Asmaniac Madness, which is hot going on right now in the month of March, of course. And Jake, before I even ask a question, I don't know how long you've been doing this, so you could give an Asmaniac Madness plug here. But what a genius pull, man, because every Jets content creator show that's going on Boy Green Daily this morning, people are making their case for Asmaniac Madness calling into the show to get better positioning. I'm just tuning into random other Jets shows, and I'm seeing the seeding take place and everything else. So you've clearly built a monster here, Jake Asman. So how many years has this been going? And maybe even explain it for some members of our audience that somehow have been living under a rock and don't know what this is about. Walk us through this, because this has been genius.
So, I mean, it really is kind of crazy how it all came about. Asmaniac Madness, this is only the second year we've done it. It's inspired by, of course, the actual March Madness that happens in the month of March, and we'll get underway tomorrow. But basically, what we did is some of my more dedicated listeners and my video guy Gator and the guy who runs my Discord for any of my Patreon users, Sham, and a couple other Jet content creators who regularly appear on the show, they're part of an Asmaniac Madness committee, and they all met over the phone or over Zoom and debated who the top 68 callers were. And just like you do for college hoops, we seeded them 1 through 68 in a tournament, right? And we did 4 1 seeds, two 4 2 seeds, so on and so forth, till we got all the way up to 68. We had a play-in round and then cut it down to the round of 64, like the actual March Madness tournament is. And basically every show in the month of March, I do 2 shows a day. People vote in a YouTube poll for the matchup that day. So, for instance, earlier today, we had the big fella on the bottom left up against Doug on the couch. It was the 2 seed against a 15 seed, and the big fella cruised to an easy win. He won 80-20, 80% of the vote for big fella, 20% to Doug. We leave the poll open for the duration of my show. Whoever has more votes advances. And it's just a really cool way to kind of acknowledge all the great callers who make my show what it is. And it gives me an opportunity to basically have some really fun content at a time when Jet fans typically are excited and locked into the show. So it's been really cool to kind of connect the community through this. People have like very serious debates on who to vote for. The committee, I give them so much credit. Like, it's not a joke to them. They take it truly serious. Like, there's like really like intriguing back and forth on who to rank where. And I have one guy named Boomtown who watches all my shows and actually keeps stats throughout the year and who's called in and who's been a great caller, who had this great moment. Wow. He like has all the research that the committee went through to come up with this. And it wasn't easy, man. Like, we came up with 68 names, but there were some people I felt like were deserving that were on the outside looking in. So a long answer to your question, but basically it's a way to determine who is the fan favorite caller on the Jake Asman YouTube show. So it's just a way to connect the community. And for me, it's just an awesome way to kind of bring people together and have some fun. It's not that serious at the end of the day. It's a Jet YouTube show, but it's a cool little side plot on a show that covers the New York Jets every day.
2 quick follow-ups. First off, what does the winner get for Asmaniac Madness, and how many years have you been now doing it, Jake?
You said
so. This is the second year. The winner will get a trophy that we named after one of my listeners who passed away, unfortunately, from cancer about a year and a half ago, Keith Best. So we named the trophy the Best of the Best trophy that the winner will actually get. So we have that. They're also going to get some signed Jets memorabilia. I haven't revealed what it is just yet, but it's going to be really cool. Okay. And people also were able to enter an actual custom bracket pool. Shout out to my sponsor, Splash Sports. They allowed me to design a custom Asmaniac Madness bracket where people could enter the pool for free, fill out their bracket, and just like in the actual March Madness, if your team wins, you get a point. If the Asmaniac you picked won their round, you get a point, and whoever has the most points at the end wins the bracket pool. And first place gets a signed Nick Mangold jersey. Second place gets a signed Darrelle Revis helmet. And third place is a signed Wayne Corbett helmet. So just a little listener appreciation. We had almost 200 people fill out brackets, which is really cool. And people are super into it, man. It's really fun.
Phenomenal, Jake. Phenomenal. All right. Yeah. We appreciate the live pop in here. Do appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for giving us a heads up. And
actually,
we'll talk to you again next week. You got something, Boykin?
Yeah, I just want to squeak in 1 or 2 more here real quick for you, Jake.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just want to give plenty of Asmaniac Madness plug here. Is the Jalen Waddle trade good news or bad news for the Jets, Jake? Now, that may sound silly. Well, why would it be bad news? It's great. That and it's the AFC East, because Jalen Waddle is leaving, and he's a really talented player, so leaving would be good. But the Dolphins sucking, there's been this march for Arch. There may be some Jake Asman merch out there with some March for Arch action, and people believe that the Dolphins have now put themselves in a better position for the March for Arch, which again, Dolphins sucking, good for Jets, but maybe bad for Jets. So where are you at there with it, Jake?
Yeah, I kind of see both sides of it, not to try and sit on the fence here, not give you a take. I find it weird that they made the move for Malik Willis and then you traded away his best weapon. I don't quite understand what their strategy is. I know they're up against it cap-wise, but man, you just invested in your quarterback. Don't you want to truly find out if you have a guy? Because if you are bad enough to take a quarterback, well, then you wasted all this money on Willis and you're dealing with his cap ramifications, right? The Jets are dealing with the dead cap still from Aaron Rodgers and now Justin Fields they have to deal with, for example. So to me, it's weird. I think big picture, Eileen, it's a good thing because while the Dolphins have a lot of picks, there's no guarantee they'll find a player as good as Waddle. And we can't just assume, without Waddle, they're automatically going to be bad and get a quarterback. To me, I know this is a weird year where it just feels like it's clearly Mendoza than everyone else. I don't expect that to be the case a year from now. I know it's fun to make the March for Arch jokes and, we all do it. But I think there'll be other quarterbacks besides just Arch Manning that will be first-round graded QBs in the class in 2027. So if the Jets don't end up being the worst team in the league and it's Miami, that doesn't mean the Jets can't end up getting their long-term answer at quarterback as well.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's good for the Jets too. Two quickies in terms of things that are still missing for the Jets. Do you have a QB2 target? Geno Smith, see the jersey over my shoulder there. He's QB1, but QB2 critically important. Even though Geno has been relatively healthy through the last chunk of time of his career, it's still an important role because seemingly every year outside of Rodgers in 24 and Fitzpatrick in 2015, we have been forced to use multiple quarterbacks in a season. So outside of those two situations, so do you have a desired QB2 target for the Jets, Jay?
Yeah, I would prefer the Jets to try and go with someone with maybe a possible upside. People might laugh, but like, why not see if you can get Will Levis? See if he just needs a change of scenery like Malik Willis did. Same situation. Malik Willis blossomed with some real coaching a couple of years into his career. To me, like, I'd rather someone with some semblance of an upside, because like, what good is trading a day 3 pick to get Andy Dalton? Oh, well, he knows Frank Reich's offense. He's 38. Who cares? Like, I rather if Geno gets hurt or is ineffective and they don't have a Ty Simpson, let's say, wouldn't you rather the backup be someone that maybe could develop into something? Will Levis probably isn't good, or Spencer Rattler, or whoever you want to throw out for this type of role I'm describing. But isn't there the chance of them maybe being something? Like, I'd rather that than just, oh, here's Andy Dalton, who's 38, and he's the backup to 36-year-old Geno Smith. Like, that doesn't really do anything for me.
Touche. Last one here is the wide receiver 2 conversation, Jake. We've been having it all over the place. How does Darren Mougey cook? You know, Denver's overflowing with receivers. Do you raid that cabinet? And Mougey was there for 13 years. Natural connections. Is that where they go and get one of those receivers from over there? Is it the draft? Is it another trade possibility? Clearly, the Jets need somebody not named Garrett Wilson in this room beyond him to add to this room. But the free agent names, I'm not sure if Stephon Diggs and Juwan Jennings and those guys want to play for the Jets, especially at the money that's going to be there. So what's the solution here, Jake?
I think they need to sign a veteran, and then they're going to have to draft someone with one of their premium picks. I think 16. If it was up to me, 16 would be a wide receiver. We'll see what the board looks like when they're up, but I definitely would go wide receiver in round 1. Juwan Jennings is still available. He's 6'2", 6'3", good player. I think it'd be a nice veteran complement to what they have with Garrett Wilson. That's who I would target at this point. I know the money for these receivers is insane, and that's why the Jets are sitting out of it, because they're like, we could just probably get our guy in the draft. But last year they went into the year with Garrett Wilson, and then their number 2/3 receivers were Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson. It's not good enough. And I don't want them to make that same mistake again. I think A.D. Mitchell is better than some give him credit for, but I don't know if he's ready to be a number 2 receiver in the league. So I want another veteran addition. And I think the draft, if they took 2 receivers, I wouldn't hate it. I think there's some really good ones in this class.
All right, Jake, we do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week, buddy.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.